Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, and our dearest lecturer, Professor Dr. Nudin Noni. And thank you for the opportunity. We are from Group 8, and this group consists of Siti Haja Marwiyah as a first presenter, Sandra Regita as a second presenter, and Atika Fadlia Mulihapsari, aka me, who will guide this presentation. We are thrilled to be here today to present to you about using podcasts in English as a second language. Our goal for this presentation is to provide you valuable insight and information about podcasts. So, a podcast is a digital audio or video file series that individuals can subscribe to and download or stream from the internet. Think of it as an on-demand radio or television show that you can listen to or watch whenever you want. Podcasts typically focus on specific topics such as news, education, entertainment, storytelling, comedy, interviews, or even niche subjects. They are often produced by individuals, media organizations, or business and can vary in format, duration, and frequency.
All right, the next slide is the benefits of using podcasts for language learning are as follow. One, listening comprehension. So listening comprehension is for podcasts. For podcasts, provide opportunity to improve listening comprehension skills as a learner, exposed to native speakers and various accent, intonation, and speech patterns. The second one is vocabulary expansion. So, podcasts expose learners to a wide range of vocabulary and idiomatic expression, helping them develop a more extensive vocabulary and understanding of colloquial language use. The third is pronunciation improvement. So regularly listening to podcasts can greatly aid in developing better pronunciation as a learners, have correct pronunciation and intonation patterns from the native speakers. Cultural exposure. Podcasts often cover a wide range of topics, including cultural aspects of the target language countries, helping learners gain a better understanding of the culture, traditions, and current events. Five is flexible learning. So, a podcast over the advantage of flexibility as a learners can listen to them anytime, anywhere, allowing for easy integration into daily routines, such as during commutes of while doing household chores. Six is authentic language use. Podcast features authentic language use, providing learners with real-world example of how the language is used naturally in different contexts. Uh, the next is motivational and engaging. Podcasts are an engaging of an enjoyable medium for language learning which can help maintain motivation and interest through the learning process. Exposure to different accents and dialects. Podcasts allow learners to expose themselves to various regional accents and dialects, providing a more comprehensive understanding of the language and its usage across different regions. uh, Improve listening skill. Regular listening to podcasts help learners develop better listening skills such as the ability to understanding and follow conversation, grasp main ideas, and improve overall comprehension. And number 10, free and accessible, accessible resources. So there are numerous language learning podcasts available for free, making them accessible to learners of any level. budget. So the next slide is types of podcasts for language. So there are four types. The one is conversational podcast. So conversational podcast, this podcast feature natural conversation between native speakers, helping learners to improve their listening and speaking skills in a more casual setting. Number two, educational podcasts. So, educational podcasts, these podcasts are designed to teach specific language skills such as grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation, and often include explanations and example to help learners understand the material. The third is new podcasts. This podcast focus on current events and news stories, providing learners with the opportunity to practice listening to real world language in journalist context. Storytelling podcast. So this podcast features narrative and storytelling in the target language, allowing learners to practice comprehension and gain exposure to different style of language use. So that's for me. Maybe my friend can continue the topic.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sandra Gita Putri Suprapto. Saya akan menjelaskan tips for effective podcast learning. Active listening techniques. These are strategies and skill used for fully engage with and understand what someone is saying, such as maintaining eye contact, nodding, asking clarifying question, and summarizing the speaker's point. Taking notes during podcast, this involves jotting down key points, ideas, or quotes while listening to a podcast to help retain information and refer back to it later. Replaying section for better understanding. This involves rereading for or replaying specific parts of a conversation or audio content to ensure full comprehension and retention of the material. Supplementary exercise or quiz for comprehension. These are additional activities or assessment designed to reinforce learning and test understanding of the material presented in a podcast or other audio content. Next, slide 6. Website and app for podcast. First, popular podcast platform Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Second, language learning specific apps Linkui and FriendU. Next, slide 7. Recommendation and resources for the app Spotify TED Talks Daily. So TED Talks Daily is a podcast that features the best stuff from the TED staff, covering a wide range of topics like science, technology, personal development, business, education, and more. Second, from the website, British Council Learn English. Learn English provides a wide range of resources, articles, video, gifs, and audio materials that cover various topic and language levels. It includes interactive exercises, grammar and vocabulary explanation, as well as opportunities for practicing speaking and listening skill. Okay, thank you.
To sum up, podcasts offer a wide range of benefits for language learners, including improved listening comprehension, vocabulary expansion, pronunciation improvement, cultural exposure, and flexible learning. They also provide authentic language use, exposure to different accents and dialects, and motivational and engaging content. Additionally, podcasts are free and accessible resources for language learners. Okay, maybe that's all our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you have found the insightful and information valuable. Thank you and have a great day.